The first sound the billionaire's daughter ever reacted to did not happen in a hospital. It happened in a middle school gym that smelled like popcorn and floor polish, when a tired single dad in work boots reached into an old military duffel bag and pulled out something he had not touched in years. By the time that moment came, Mark Dalton had already lived 3 different lives. In his first life he was a Navy SEAL. Under pressure, trained to move fast, think clearly, and survive hard places. In his second life he was a husband, a good one, he liked to believe. His wife Rachel had been a speech therapist who worked with children with hearing and language challenges. She was patient, warm, and the kind of person who made a room feel safe. In his third life, the one he was living now, Mark was just a single father trying to keep his small family together. Rachel had died 3 years earlier after a short, brutal fight with cancer. She left behind Mark, their 12-year-old daughter, Emma, and their 7-year-old son, Caleb. Since then, Mark's world had become alarm clocks, lunchboxes, overdue bills, laundry at midnight, and quiet guilt that never really went away. He worked at Harbor Ridge Academy in Seattle as a security supervisor and part-time facilities manager. It was not a glamorous job, but it paid enough to keep a roof over their heads. Barely. Every morning started the same way. "Dad, Caleb can't find his shoe again," Emma called from the kitchen. "I didn't lose it," Caleb shouted back. "It just isn't where I left it." Mark found the shoe under the couch, packed 2 lunches, signed a permission slip he had forgotten the night before, and made sure Caleb took his inhaler. Emma watched him the way children watch parents after a loss, with love, but also with concern far beyond her age. "You forgot your coffee," she said softly. Mark looked at the mug, then at her. "You're supposed to be worrying about math homework, not me." She gave a small smile. "Somebody has to." That line stayed with him the whole day. Harbor Ridge was one of those expensive schools where children arrived in polished SUVs and parents donated new libraries like other people donated sweaters. That week, the school was buzzing because Adrian Vale was coming. Everyone knew the name. Adrian Vale was the billionaire founder of Vale Audio Systems, a company famous for high-end sound technology, speakers, studio equipment, communication tools. His company made millions helping the world listen better. And yet his 10-year-old daughter, Lily, who had never heard a single word. The irony followed him everywhere. Lily had been born with a rare condition, affecting her ear structure. For years, specialists tried one approach after another: hearing aids, therapy plans, experimental fittings. None of it gave her real access to sound. She learned to communicate through sign language, facial expression, and reading lips. She was bright, observant, and painfully quiet, not because she had nothing to say, but because most people made her feel like a problem to solve instead of a child to understand. Adrian had recently enrolled Lily at Harbor Ridge because the school had a strong support program. He had money, influence, and every possible medical option, but he still carried the face of a father who had run out of answers. Mark first noticed Lily near the playground during lunch. She was sitting alone on a bench with a sketchbook in her lap, drawing birds. Her dark hair was tied back neatly, and her eyes followed everything: the swing chains, the shape of clouds, the movement of other children's mouths. But she kept her distance. A few girls from her class were talking nearby, not cruelly, just carelessly. "Do you think she reads everything we say?" one whispered. Lily saw the lips. Her shoulders stiffened. Mark walked over slowly, not wanting to startle her. He pointed to the empty end of the bench, then raised his brows as if asking permission. She looked at him for a moment, then gave a tiny nod. Rachel had taught Mark basic sign language years ago. He was rusty, but he remembered enough. He signed clumsily, "Nice drawing." Lily looked surprised. Then she glanced at his hands again. She signed back, a little faster than he could follow. Mark gave an embarrassed smile. "Slow, I'm out of practice." That made her almost smile. He pointed to the bird on the page. "Seagull." She shook her head and signed, then mouthed carefully. "Hawk." "Ah," he said, much tougher for the first time. Her expression softened. Over the next few days, Mark saw her more often, sometimes with her interpreter, sometimes waiting alone for her father, who was often late because of meetings. Adrian always arrived looking expensive, exhausted, and guilty. One afternoon, Mark was fixing a loose gate near the front entrance when he saw Lily standing by the office, backpack on, staring at the floor. It was nearly 6. "Your ride not here yet?" he asked gently. She glanced up and signed, "Dad working." A few minutes later, Adrian rushed in, phone in one hand, apology in his face. "I'm sorry, Lily," he said, kneeling to her level, though his voice had the distracted edge of a man still mentally in another room. The board meeting ran over. Lily looked at him, then away. Adrian noticed Mark and exhaled. "Mr. Dalton, right?" "Mark is fine. I appreciate your staff staying late with her." Mark nodded. "No problem." Adrian hesitated, then looked at his daughter. "She's had a hard adjustment." Mark chose his words carefully. "She seems like a strong kid." Adrian gave a sad smile. "She is. I'm the one not handling it well." That Friday, the school hosted a spring fundraiser in the gym. Families filled the bleachers. A student jazz group warmed up near the stage. Children ran in every direction. There was laughter, movement, and the kind of noisy joy Mark imagined the world must look like to Lily, full of energy, but completely silent. Mark had brought Emma and Caleb because he couldn't afford a babysitter. Caleb was eating cookies too fast. Emma was helping at the ticket table. Mark spotted Lily near one of the large floor speakers. She had one hand resting lightly on the side of it. Her eyes were closed, not hearing, feeling, the vibration. Something flashed in Mark's mind, an old field memory, a compact military bone conduction communication set. It transmitted sound through vibration against the bones of the skull. He had used it years earlier on operations where standard earpieces were useless. He had not thought about that device in a long time. His eyes drifted toward the exit doors. Old duffel bag was still in the trunk of his truck. He looked back at Lily. Then he made a decision. Mark returned 10 minutes later with a worn green duffel slung over one shoulder. He felt slightly foolish carrying a piece of his past into a school gym, but something in him would not let it go. The device was small, durable, and old-fashioned compared to newer equipment. It was not medical equipment. It was not a cure, but it worked through bone conduction. And Rachel had once explained to him that for some children with certain types of hearing loss, vibration could open a different path. He found Adrian near the back of the gym. "Can I show you something?" Mark asked. Adrian looked confused but followed him to a quieter corner where Lily stood with her interpreter. Mark pulled out the headset. Adrian frowned. "What is that?" "Military communication gear," Mark said. "Old bone conduction set. It sits here." He touched the area just behind his ear and along the cheekbone, and sends vibration through the bone instead of the usual way. The interpreter relayed the explanation to Lily Inson. Adrian's face tightened. "We've seen specialists across 3 states, Mr. Dalton." "I know," Mark said quietly, "and I'm not pretending I know more than they do. I'm just saying, maybe let her try. If she doesn't want to, we stop." Lily was already staring at the device. Mark turned to her and signed the best he could. "Only if you want." She looked at her father. Adrian swallowed. For a moment the billionaire disappeared, and only the father remained. He nodded. Mark cleaned the contact point with an alcohol wipe from the nurse's station. He helped position the device gently against Lily's head. Then he connected it to his phone. First he played a low, steady tone. Lily blinked. Her whole body went still. Not dramatic, not magical, just still. Mark lowered the volume, then raised it slightly. Lily's eyes widened. She lifted her hand and pressed it against the device as if trying to understand what was happening inside her own head. Adrian stepped closer, barely breathing. The interpreter started to cry before anyone else did. Mark looked at Adrian. "Say something simple." Adrian's voice shook. "Lily." Lily turned. Her eyes locked on her father's mouth first, then on his face. He tried again, slower. "Lily, it's Dad." She inhaled sharply. Then she signed with trembling hands. Again, Adrian said her name 3 more times before his own voice broke. Lily did not suddenly hear the world. She did not begin speaking. It was not that kind of miracle. But for the first time in her life, sound reached her in a way that meant something. And that changed everything. The next week became a storm. Adrian brought in specialists. Actual medical experts examined Lily and reviewed her long history. They explained that she might be a strong candidate for a modern bone conduction hearing system. Something better fitted and properly designed for long-term use than anything she had tried before. The old device from Mark's duffel had not healed her. It had revealed a possibility. Adrian clung to that possibility. Like a drowning man, he asked Mark to stay involved, at least until we get through the consultations. He said, "She trusts you." Mark hesitated. "I've got my own kids, my job. I'm not asking for charity," Adrian said. "I'm asking for help." The extra pay he offered would cover 2 months of rent and Caleb's dental bill, so Mark said yes. At first, it felt manageable. He met Lily after school. He sat with her during appointments. He signed what he could. When his hands failed, he listened with his eyes. He reminded Adrian to slow down when he spoke about procedures and outcomes as if he were launching a product. But the deeper Mark got involved, the more his own life began slipping. Emma stopped telling him about school because he was always distracted. Caleb started acting out. One evening he spilled juice at dinner and burst into tears over nothing. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry." Mark crouched beside him. "Hey, it's just juice." Caleb wiped his face. "You're always tired." The words hit harder than Mark expected. Emma had her own turn. He missed her school presentation because Lily had an urgent clinic fitting across town. By the time he reached home, Emma was sitting at the kitchen table with her poster board still in her arms. "How was it?" he asked, already knowing. She laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "You tell me." "You weren't there, Emma." "No, it's okay." Her voice wavered. "I know Lily needs help. I know she matters. But sometimes it feels like you only become a hero for other people." Mark stood there, unable to defend himself because she was not wrong that same week. Things got worse on Adrian's side too. News of Lily's progress leaked somehow. A local business reporter ran a story about the billionaire heiress and the breakthrough hope. A few people from Adrian's company wanted to turn it into a public message about innovation and perseverance. Adrian said no at first, but pressure kept building. Lily felt it immediately. More appointments, more adults, more watching eyes. One afternoon in the hospital consultation room, the surgeon explained the next steps for an implanted bone conduction system. It was safe, promising, not perfect, but promising. Lily looked overwhelmed. The doctor smiled kindly. This could help you hear many sounds more clearly. The interpreter signed the sentence. Lily's expression changed. She signed quickly, frustration sharp in every movement. Mark caught only part of it, and the interpreter spoke for her. She says everybody talks about what she will hear. Nobody asks what she is afraid of. The room went quiet. Adrian moved toward her. Lily, sweetheart, this could finally. She stepped back and signed again. Harder this time. The interpreter's voice cracked. She says she is tired of people trying to fix her before they even know her. Then she pulled the trial band off her head and started crying. Not loudly. That made it worse. Just silent tears rolling down the face of a child who had been brave for too long. Adrian stood frozen. Mark wanted to help, but at that exact moment his phone buzzed again and again in his pocket. He stepped into the hallway and saw 6 missed calls from Emma. When he called back, she answered on the first ring. Her voice was shaking. Dad, Caleb had an asthma attack at school. He's okay now. Mrs. Benson brought us home. Where are you? Mark closed his eyes. In one building, a little girl was breaking under the weight of everyone's hope across town. His own son had struggled to breathe without him there. That night, after he got the kids settled, Mark sat alone at the kitchen table with Rachel's old notebook open in front of him. It was filled with simple ASL reminders, therapy notes, and little sentences she had written years ago on one page. She had underlined a line in blue ink. Children do not heal when we control them. They heal when they feel safe. Mark stared at that sentence until the words blurred. For the first time since Rachel died, he put his head in his hands and cried the way he had taught himself not to. He felt like he was failing everybody, and that was the lowest point of all. The next morning, Mark made a choice that surprised even him. He called Adrian and said, "No hospital today. No specialists. No company people. No pressure." Adrian sounded exhausted. "Mark, we can't just stop." "Yes, you can," Mark said. "If you want your daughter to trust you again, you have to." There was a long silence. Then Adrian asked quietly, "What do I do?" "Meet me at the school music room at 4. Just you and Lily." Mark also brought Emma and Caleb. When Adrian arrived with Lily, the room was calm. No white coats, no folders, no cameras, just a piano in the corner, soft afternoon light, and a table with juice boxes Caleb had insisted on bringing for everybody. Lily looked suspicious at first. Then she saw Emma. Emma gave a small wave. "Hi, Lily," signed back automatically. Mark took a slow breath. Today nobody is going to convince anybody of anything. Today we listen. He turned to Adrian, not as a billionaire, not as a man trying to solve a problem, as her dad. Adrian looked at Lily, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in months without seeing appointments and outcomes floating around her face. He knelt in front of her. The interpreter was not there, so Mark and Emma helped where they could. Adrian's signing was poor, but honest. He signed slowly, awkwardly, and with tears in his eyes. "I am sorry." Lily's expression trembled. He kept going, mixing signs and speech. "I pushed too hard. I was scared. I thought if I worked harder, paid more, found the best people I could, make everything better. But I forgot to ask you what you wanted." Lily's eyes filled. She signed back, slower now, giving him time to understand. Mark translated the parts he could. "She says she doesn't hate trying. She hates feeling alone when she tries." That hit Adrian harder than anything else had. He nodded again and again. "You won't be alone." Then Mark reached into the old duffel bag one last time and pulled out the bone conduction headset. He held it up. No pressure, just one message. Lily looked at it, then at her father, and nodded. Mark set it gently in place. He handed Adrian his phone. "Record it." Adrian's voice shook as he spoke. "Lily, this is Dad. No more cameras. No more forcing. If you want the surgery, I'll be there the whole time. If you don't, I'll still be there. I love you. You never needed to become different for me to love you." Mark played the recording through the device. Lily listened. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Then, with small, unsteady hands, she signed, "I want to try." She pointed at her father. "But you stay." Adrian nodded before the sentence was even finished. "I stay." This time he did. The surgery happened 6 weeks later. It was not magic. Recovery took time. Adjustments took time. Therapy took time. Some sounds were strange to Lily at first. Some were overwhelming. Some made her laugh because they were nothing like what she had imagined. But little by little, the world opened. The first sound she clearly recognized was not a dramatic speech. It was the soft tap of rain on the clinic window. The second was her father saying, "Good morning." The third was Caleb laughing too loudly after dropping crackers all over Mark's truck. Lily laughed too, half from the sound and half from the joy on everyone else's faces. As for Mark, life did not turn perfect overnight. He still had bills. He still worked hard. He still missed Rachel in quiet moments, but things began to settle. Emma forgave him not in one big speech, but in the way she leaned against his shoulder during a movie one night and said, "You're home more." Caleb's breathing improved after they got his treatment sorted, and he stopped asking if his dad was too tired all the time. Adrian, changed by the whole experience, offered Mark a better job overseeing safety and community programs for the school district. With stable hours and benefits, Mark accepted only after asking one question: "Will I still be home for dinner?" Adrian smiled for the first time in a long while. "That can be arranged." A few months later, Harbor Ridge held another school event in the same gym where everything had started. This time, Lily stood with other children near the stage. A student played the piano softly. Emma helped at registration again. Caleb ran around with a cookie in each hand. Mark stood in the back, watching. Lily turned when she heard someone call her name. Not felt, heard. She found Mark in the crowd, smiled, and waved. He waved back, his throat tightening. Rachel had once told him that love was not always loud. Sometimes it showed up in patience, in presence, in staying when it was easier to walk away. That night, Mark drove his children home with the windows cracked just enough to let the evening air in. From the back seat, Caleb asked, "Dad, do you think Mom would be proud of us?" Mark looked at Emma in the mirror. She was already watching him. He swallowed and smiled. "I know she would." And for the first time in a very long time, he believed it.